Good evening and welcome to the webinar. This evening we're going to be talking about how to burn fat without spinning your wheels in the gym, and you're going to learn how to determine your target heart rate zone and design your own cardio program in just 3 easy steps. So the first thing I want to talk about is, when is the only time you efficiently burn fat? And I ask this question a lot to our clients, and nobody really knows the answer. And it's kind of counterintuitive, but the only time you actually efficiently burn fat is when you're in a resting state. So for example, when you're sleeping at night, the calories that you're actually burning are being pulled directly from your adipose tissue or your fat stores. And I love this picture because 5 pounds of fat is basically the equivalent of a brick. It weighs about the same as a brick. 1 pound of fat contains approximately 3,500 calories, and it's really important that you understand that, because even though you efficiently burn fat in a resting state, it's going to depend on a couple of factors. And the first thing you need to understand is the first law of thermodynamics and the law of conservation of energy. These are two laws that basically help us understand energy balance. So for example, if you take in 3,000 calories and you burn 3,000 calories, there's going to be no change in your body composition. But if you take in 4,000 calories and you only burn 2,000 calories, you're going to increase your body mass. Now, if you take in 2,000 calories and you burn 3,000 calories, that's when you're actually going to see a decrease in your body mass. And that's really important to understand, because it is as simple as calories in versus calories out, but you also have to make sure that you're timing and balancing your meals. And that's the second part, because when you actually stabilize your blood sugar, fat is released into the bloodstream, it's absorbed by the muscle, and it's used as energy. Your fat is metabolized, about 75% is metabolized in your liver, and then once it's absorbed into the muscle tissue, that's actually when it's burned as fuel. So it's really important to understand those concepts. Even though you only burn fat when you're in a resting state, it's going to depend on whether or not you're maintaining a caloric deficit, and whether or not you're able to stabilize your blood sugar. So how do you burn fat without spinning your wheels in the gym? And the answer is really simple. You want to make sure you're working in the right target heart rate zones. And that's what we really want to talk about this evening. So the first thing you need to understand is that there's two different forms of exercise. The first one is anaerobic exercise, or what we call resistance training. Anaerobic means that it doesn't require oxygen, and this is going to be the resistance training or the weight training. Fat is burned in the muscle tissue, like we mentioned, and fat and calories, the goal is to turn your body into a fat burning machine. And you do that by engaging in resistance training or weight training. And the goal is to help strengthen and tone your muscle tissue and really increase your lean muscle mass. By increasing your lean muscle mass, you're going to be able to burn more calories in a resting state. Hence, you're going to be able to burn more fat. And the goal is to help increase your metabolic rate, which is going to help you burn more fat. One thing to understand is that you can spot gains. So if you want to increase the size of your arms or strengthen your core, you can do specific exercises to lengthen and tone those areas. The second form of exercise is aerobic training, or aerobic exercise, or what we call cardiovascular training. And this is what we really want to talk about this evening, because cardiovascular training is a stimulus to mobilize fat, meaning that it gets fat out of storage into your circulatory system so it can be used as an energy source. Aerobic exercise serves two purposes. One is to help you burn fat, and the second one is to improve your cardiorespiratory efficiency or endurance. And really that just means to help strengthen your heart and your lungs. It's going to help increase your metabolic efficiency so you can burn more fat. The key is to make sure that you're working in the right target heart rate zone, which we're going to cover in just a second. You want to make sure that you're following the FIT principle, which we'll talk about in just a second. And one thing that's really important to understand is that you cannot spot reduce. So if you want to get rid of the fat that's surrounding your abdomen, you can't do crunches in order to get rid of the fat there. That's going to come down to making sure that you're following that you're eating properly and you're following a structured cardiovascular program. So there's several different ways to determine your target heart rate zone. The first one is the age predicted formula. The second one is the Carvonin formula, and the last one is the rate of perceived exertion scale. The FIT principle, FIT is an acronym that stands for frequency, intensity, type, time, and enjoyment. So as far as structuring a cardiovascular program, the first thing you want to look at is the frequency. If you're not used to doing cardio, chances are you're not going to want to do 5 times a week of cardiorespiratory training. So, typically if you're just starting off, we recommend that you start with 2 to 3 times a week. The intensity is going to be making sure that you're working in the right target heart rate zone. The type is going to be the mode of cardio. You want to find a mode of cardio that you enjoy, and you also want to find a mode of cardio that's going to help overcome any muscle imbalances, posture deviances, or motor dysfunctions you might have. The other T stands for time, and that's going to be the duration of activity. And typically when you're following a cardiovascular program, you want to engage in cardiovascular activity for at least 20 minutes. The last, and the E stands for enjoyment. The key is to keep yourself busy. If you need to listen to music, or if you're in a gym setting where you can actually watch TV, the key is to find a mode of cardio that you'll actually enjoy and that you'll stay compliant with. So how do you determine your target heart rate zone and design your own cardio program in just 3 easy steps? The first one is to determine your maximum heart rate zone, which we'll cover in just a second. The second one is to calculate your zones using the appropriate percentages, or use the chart to determine your target heart rate zones, which we're going to cover. And the third step is to choose the method of cardio you're going to enjoy and perform it between 2 and 5 times a week. So here's an aerobic prescription for you to follow. It should be based on your current aerobic condition and, of course, your goal. If you're sedentary, if you're just starting off, or you're really looking for fat loss, what we typically recommend is that you start off between 50 and 75%. And this is going to be zones 1 through 3. And the initial conditioning stage is going to be about 4 to 6 weeks. For general fitness, your target heart rate zone is going to be, hold on just a second, for general fitness, your target heart rate zone is going to be somewhere between 70 and 85%. And this is going to be zones 3 and 4. So the key here is to improve your conditioning stage, which this lasts up to 6 months, and the intensity and duration are going to increase every 2 to 3 weeks. And if you're an endurance athlete, you're going to work out between 70 up to your maximum heart rate zone, or upwards of 95%. And this is going to be sport specific. So these are for endurance athletes that are trying to get ready for a specific event. So here's how you determine your maximum heart rate zone. This is step 1. You're going to take 220 and subtract your age. So in this example, let's assume you're 40 years old. So 220 minus 40 is 180. That's an estimated range of your maximum heart rate. Why did we use 220? Well, 220 is the heartbeat of a baby when it's born. And so each year that you get older, you subtract 1 year. And that's important to understand. This is just an estimate, but it is a general or a good rule to follow. And you can figure out your percentages by taking your maximum heart rate and multiplying by those percentages. Now, this is what's called the age predicted formula. And that's important to understand because there are other formulas, for example, like the Carvonin formula or the modified Carvonin formula, which are a little bit more accurate. But this will at least help you get started. So for the example here, if we take 70% times the 180, it's going to be 126 beats per minute. And if we take 85% of 180, it's going to be 153 beats per minute. So the target heart rate training zone for this individual would be 126 to 153 beats per minute. So the easiest way for you to determine your zones is to use this guideline that's actually been provided by Polar. So what you would do over here on the left-hand side is find your age, and if you're 39, I would recommend just using the lower age group, which in this case would be 35. So zone 1 would be light to moderate. That's about 60 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. So in this case, it would be 111 to 148 beats per minute. And the zone 2 would be moderate to hard, and that would be 70 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. In this example, if you're 39, or if we're using 35, that would be 130 to 167 beats per minute. So that is step 2. And the final step is to choose a method of cardio that you're going to enjoy. And you want to make sure that you're engaging in cardiovascular activity for about 20 to 30 minutes, at least 2 to 3 times a week. And as every couple of weeks, you can increase the duration. So if you start off at 20 minutes, then you can increase that to 30 minutes. If you're only engaged in cardiovascular activity for 2 days a week, you can increase that to 3 days a week. But the main objective is to make sure that you establish a cardiovascular foundation, and that's so important. We see this happen a lot with our clients, but they're not following a structured cardio program initially, and so when they start the high intensity interval training, because they're not conditioned, their heart rate spikes pretty quickly. And it's so important to make sure that you build that aerobic foundation, and that's why you have to do the low intensity cardio at least 2 to 3 days a week to build that aerobic foundation and make sure that you're able to handle the higher target heart rate zones. And just to give you a hint, and that's one of the reasons we have Sarah on the line, but the Polar products will eliminate all the guesswork, and they'll tell you exactly what to do. They'll tell you exactly what target heart rate zone to work in. They'll make sure that you're burning the right amount of calories and burning fat efficiently without spinning your wheels in the gym. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to talk to us a little bit about the Polar products. Sarah, take it away.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, and thank you all for joining tonight. I do work with Polar. I have been with the company for about 2 years, but I do want to offer some background regarding Polar Electro. We are a Finnish-based company, and our U.S. office is based in Long Island. I am the territory sales rep for Texas and Louisiana, and I often offer information sessions like this so that it makes the information regarding our products much more user-friendly. Polar has been around since the late 1970s. We were the developers of the first heart rate monitor, as well as the first wireless heart rate monitor that actually was created in 1982. We offer products for all different types of athletes, everyone from somebody who is a beginner who is monitoring his or her daily activity, including steps or sleep, all the way to elite athletes that need to know what their training load and their recovery status is. We are the only medically approved heart rate monitor device on the market. And I'm going to dive into why that's important a little later. But for the time being, know that we do have medical backing. We do have a medical division as well as education division. We do work with a lot of pro teams. For instance, the U.S. women's soccer team that just had a good big win the other day. They wear Polar products as well. So a lot of pro teams are training with heart rate monitors. And the reason for that is we are the only heart rate monitor that measures each individual beat and the variability as such. So when your heart becomes a stronger muscle, there are more variable beats. And when you are measuring heart rate, you wouldn't want to take the average of 3 beats to assess what your beats per minute is in relation to your maximum heart rate. So Polar doesn't do that. Polar is EKG, ECG accurate. We measure the time intervals between the beats, which is also called your R to R variability. I won't expect you all to remember that. It's just a little bit of information. But the reason why that's so important is because when Michael was talking about how to figure out what your true heart rate zones are, we're talking about the variance of a few beats per minute between zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and then when you achieve your anaerobic in zone 4 and zone 5, we may be talking about the difference of 5 beats per minute. So it's important that the Polar products do offer accurate readings for your heart rate so that you know which training zone you are truly in. If your goal is to be losing weight, initially, like Michael described, you would want to spend a lot of your time in the lower heart rate zones, in zones 1 and 2, where you are going to be at anywhere from 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. This is where you're going to be building that foundation, that where you're going to be teaching your body to use fat as fuel, and you are going to be in the lower areas of your aerobic zone. When you start increasing the intensity of your workouts, you're going to enter into the moderate zone, which is also known as zone 3. This is 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. Here, you are using a combination of stored fats and stored sugars to burn energy. Eventually, those stored sugars are going to run out, and so you are going to want to be sure that your body has learned how to tap into that fat storage in order for you to sustain the correct level of output that you would like. Let's say, for instance, you've been training for a 5K or even a 10K race, and you want to make sure that you are able to run or jog throughout the entire race. You want to be sure that you don't go out of the gate blazing, guns blazing, and run for that first 5 minutes and then have to walk the rest of the race. So this is the importance of being able to sustain a good zone 3 moderate pace in your aerobic zone. When you start achieving intensities that get you into the anaerobic zones, zones 4 and zones 5, you're going to be in an anaerobic state, and you can only sustain those level of output for a limited amount of time. You're almost exclusively using the stored energy that are in your muscles, the glycogen. And that's why if you do go guns blazing in a workout or in a race, and you can only sustain that level for a short period of time because you've used up all that stored energy, to get down into the lower heart rate zones in order to be able to recover properly. So why is it important that you train with a heart rate monitor? Well, a heart rate monitor helps you train more efficiently. It helps your body have more specific intensity or target zones, each with their own benefits. So the zones, as I had mentioned before, they're based on a percentage of your maximum heart rate. And this number is automatically calculated by most of the Polar heart rate monitors. So there's different methods of figuring out what your maximum heart rate is. Polar uses the age-based calculation. With our units, you are able to change what that maximum heart rate value is. For instance, a 3 to 2-year-old should have a maximum heart rate beats of 188 beats per minute. If he or she has been fit for most of their life, it's likely that their maximum heart rate will be higher than that. And that will affect what training zones they should be in through their workouts. But just so you know, back to the products, yes, they do use the age-based calculation, but they are designed to help you stay on track to reach your goals. You don't always have to go faster or harder to get the best results. To reach your goals, you just need to listen to your heart and train in the right intensity. So as I was describing before about weight loss versus improving your fitness or maximizing your performance in those aerobic zones, using a heart rate monitor can guide that training. So in terms of the tools that Polar likes to offer, we use a term called smart coaching or our smart tools, if you will. With all of our heart rate monitors, you're going to get at least 2 pieces. You're going to receive a chest strap, which is worn comfortably against the skin, and you're going to use a wrist unit. The chest strap picks up the heart's signals, electrical signals, and sends them wirelessly to your wrist unit, where your heart rate is displayed continuously as beats per minute or percentage of heart rate max. Polar now sits on the board of the Bluetooth Special Interest Group. We are the company, actually it's a Polar employee that has his hand in writing the heart rate script that is used for every mobile application that uses heart rate. So whether or not you're using an app designed by Polar, the Polar Beat, or one that's designed by a third party, a Polar employee was the one that actually enabled that to be read properly or be able to be displayed for your mobile application. We are also the first company to be able to offer a Bluetooth Smart Ready device. So I did mention just a minute ago that when you purchase a heart rate monitor, that there are two pieces. Now that we are using a Bluetooth wavelength, you are able to simply purchase an H7 chest strap that is Bluetooth Smart, and you could actually transmit your information to your mobile phone. If your mobile phone or your mobile device, such as an iPad Air, is Bluetooth Smart Ready. I say that just because I want people to know that there are so many different options and products within our product line that make it very user-friendly for what type of experience you're looking for. In terms of the tools, beyond the mobile applications that we do offer, we have a web-based service called Polar Flow. So here you see some of the products. On the top left, you have our activity tracker. In the middle, you have our GPS-based unit. In the center, you have Polar Beat. On the top right, there's just a little window image of our Polar Flow web service. This web service is free. Anybody can register to use it, and it offers different training tools for you to be able to analyze your workouts. So what's really great about it is that if you are one to go outside or go for hikes or go for walks or on bike rides with your family, and you're wearing your Bluetooth Smart device that is GPS enabled, you can actually track your routes along the way. And when you're finished working out, you could sync your your wrist unit with your phone and upload your training session to your mobile device. And then when you log on to the web service, you're able to see the routes that you took, and you're able to see what your progress was, along the routes. You're also able to find other Polar users, community users in your local area. Or for instance, if you travel for work, as I do, I like to actually search out other routes when I'm away on business or on vacation, and I'll see what areas a lot of the local community members are working out in, so that I can see what a popular route is, and then I'm able to relive their experience. If that user, that Polar user, has made their profile public, because you do have the option to be private, if they have made their profile public, you are also able to analyze their data. And so if you wanted to create a challenge for yourself, you could just try to simulate the workout, relive the workout as they did it, and just challenge yourself to output a better numbers, if you will. But the other great tools about that is that you have a calendar view where you can look at your workouts on a daily, a weekly, or a monthly view. Why that's important? Because it's very valuable to an athlete to look at his or her training data. When you see your own progress, when you see what days, or when you can account for what days you did what type of exercise, it establishes this ownership or this ability for you to be engaged in your own progress. When you see the days, maybe this last weekend was all about the family and you didn't get in as many workouts as you were hoping to, you can account for that. You can say, okay, this weekend was a little bit of a loss, but I'm going to pick it back up this week. And you're able to see that progress. You're able to see the commitment that you have made to yourself over time. That's actually one of my favorite training tools, because I really am able to keep myself accountable when I see that I completed a workout session on a specific day for that week, for that month. And then even in totals, you can see it for the year if you like. Another feature that Polar offers on that is the distribution of the activities. So if you don't mind, I'm going to use myself as an example. I like to do triathlons. So I'm able to see how much time I'm spending in the water versus on the bike versus running. And it kind of gives me a window into where my strengths may be or what discipline I may be ignoring. So when Michael was talking about building building muscle and improving that way so that you're training your body to have a higher metabolic rate just at rest. I mean, you're able to see how much time you may be doing strength sessions or circuit training sessions, and Polar's web service will actually break that down for you. Again, I want to remind you all, this is a free service. So with any of our Polar products, you have access to the web application, and then if any of the products that you choose to use are Bluetooth smart, then you are also able to sync your data through your Bluetooth ready device. So you can be on the go. You don't always have to log into your computer. Let me scroll to the next page. Okay, so right here, I just wanted to lay out the different hot links or hyperlinks, if you will, to the different services that Polar offers. I've touched on the web service. There's the Flow application, which is just the Flow version of the web service. And then we have different updates that Polar likes to announce frequently. We are a private company, again, out of Finland, and they've done a really great job paying attention to the U.S. market in terms of what type of web services and tools that, that our consumers are interested in. And some of the other things that they've established for us are different tests and cardio programs that we can use. So with some of our fitness products, we have a fitness test, which is a sub-maximal VO2 test. So it's assessing what your oxygen uptake is and how efficient your body is using oxygen. I say sub-maximal because some of you may be familiar with a VO2 max test as one that you would need to be on a treadmill with a gas, I call it a gas mask. It's an oxygen mask, or on a bike where somebody is actually analyzing your true oxygen uptake. Well, we're able to perform this fitness test at rest with you laying down for 5 minutes. The reason we're able to do it in those conditions is because, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are able to measure your R to R variability, the time intervals between your beats. So you would just enable that fitness test, press start on your wrist unit, lay down for 5 minutes, and the wrist unit would be able to assess what your score is. How efficient are you at using oxygen? And what that helps you do is actually tailor your training targets and tailor your training goals. There's another program that Polar has called the STAR training program, and this was one of my favorites. It is a program that asks you the short survey about how many days a week you're working out, how much do you weigh, all the basics, age, weight, height, and gender. Again, how many days a week you're working out, what your goal is. Do you want to lose weight? Would you like to maintain fitness, or would you like to maximize fitness? When you answer all of those questions, this program called the STAR training program will output a 4-week schedule for you. And it'll tell you what days, how many days per week you should work out in a specific zone. So it doesn't say on Monday you have to do 45 minutes of group exercise, and Tuesday you have to do 30 minutes of running. It's not like that. It just says by the end of this week, I want you to perform an hour and a half of zone 1, zone 2 training. By the end of this week, I want you to perform 2 hours of zone 3 training. By the end of this week, I want you to perform at least 45 minutes of zone 4, zone 5 training. So you can choose to do whatever type of activity you love. As Michael was saying, you have to love the sport in order to stay engaged, in order to motivate yourself. So that STAR training program is smart. If you skip a workout, it knows it because it hasn't recorded that training session. So it'll actually adjust your training program. Why that's important? Because when you're trying to lay a foundation to become a stronger athlete, you don't want to cheat yourself or even cheat a program that you're following, because you want to have that strong foundation so that your muscles are able to support your skeletal structure, so that you don't set yourself up for injury, so that you don't set yourself up for a greater level of fatigue, and that you are maximizing your time. You don't want to spin your wheels. You want to train in the correct zones to achieve what your fitness goals are. One of the other programs that Polar offers are our endurance training programs. So for any of you who like to spend your days outdoors and either do trail runs or even road races or be on the bike, Polar offers endurance training programs. And this is something that actually they're going to be uploading. We have it on one of our older web services right now, which is still accessible and free for use. And they will be finishing and wrapping this up and making it accessible on our Flow service. I want to say Q3 of this year. So, but they are called the endurance training programs, and we've had top-level athletes and coaches help tailor these programs. So much like the STAR training program, you will have a brief questionnaire about what your training targets are, how many days a week you are wanting to work out, how many days a week have you been working out, and again, it'll output a schedule for you so that you are able to follow it. Now this one is going to be a little bit more detailed and say, on Monday you need to do this type of workout, Tuesday do this type of workout, but it is designed for a specific goal. Say for instance a half marathon. If you are a run walker, it'll output how much time you need to spend in the specific training zone. So again, training by these training targets is very important. Now some of you may know or may be familiar with GPS-based units. And a lot of those running programs or fitness programs exclusively focus on pace. Now, I've spent, just to digress a little bit, I've spent 6 years working at a running store prior to joining Polar. So I'm very familiar with the different types of programs that are available to the community. And they're fantastic. But training by heart rate offers you more information than if you're running farther or if you're running faster. If you're training harder or if you're training in the right fitness zone. So by training with heart rate, you have another tool for analyzing your progress. With the fitness test, the submaximal VO2 max test, and these endurance programs, you will be able to monitor what your progress is as you continue to build on your previous workouts. So, gosh, what else can I touch on? I know I'm just kind of like throwing out so much information at you all. So are there any questions at this time about any of the units or about any of the services that Polar has to offer for you? Any questions at all? I'm certainly available to talk if any of you have any specific questions about any of the units. We do offer a full product range, not just in terms of what type of athlete you may be, but in terms of price point. That is always a very important consideration for our athletes. We have the H7 chest strap that I was speaking about that I know is a very popular unit for a lot of Michael's clients. Retails at $80. So it's, you know, it's a night out, or it's just another outfit, or it's whatever else. So it's actually going to be giving you a training target and giving you accountability for your progress. And then we have units that range all the way up into, our highest end unit is retailing at $520. Now that's a unit that would be for the elite athlete that wants indoor swimming metrics, that wants to know what their training load is, and on what day and what time they will be recovered properly. But if any of you are paying attention, again, to the Women's World Cup, the U.S. women's team has been training with their products. I like to kind of plug this at the end. We do have a lot of pro teams that use our products. Sadly, we don't have as many Texas teams as I would like, but we do have a lot of teams, for instance, like the Denver Broncos, the Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Bears, the Atlanta Falcons, the Miami Heat. The last 4 NCAA tournament winners for collegiate basketball are using Polar products. We do have the Texas Rangers. They have used our Polar, our team system, which is for the pros. And even though we don't have a NASCAR division or an Indy division, a lot of those drivers are often found wearing Polar heart rate monitors because they are driving at upwards of 200 miles an hour. They need to know how to work out and keep their heart rate in a very calm state when they're under those high levels of stress. So always be on the lookout for a wrist unit. You'll often find with the pros it's a Polar unit, and it's something that I'm proud of and I'm proud to speak about. So I really appreciate your time this evening. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy evening to join us. Let me stop the recording, and then we'll open it up to Q&A.